Welcome in, friends. We have a back-to-back Cus I Wanna, Friday and Saturday. And I can't think of anything I want to do more than do some roasting tonight. And I've got my good cop to my bad cop with me, Sara from Leaving Faith. Great to have you.
Hi, thank you so much for having me.
So some have said that you balance me out. So I'm expecting there to be some Christians or some believers that are. You don't have to worry about me chewing you out tonight because the good cop's here. When I put the heat on too much, don't worry, Sarah. Well, I'll hand it over to Sara, and Sara can do she can do the real work while I collect myself. But so glad to have you back.
Thank you. And it's probably, I occasionally maybe let people off the hook a little too easily. So it's good. I think it's good we have both of us.
You know what though? I think it works out, and I've gotten some similar comments. Sometimes I get paired up with someone where I have to be the good cop, and I don't know if I'm a very good cop. I skew a little bit towards the other side sometimes.
Never.
But your good cop comes out naturally, so it works out. And I think people see it. So, Theist, if you think tonight's tonight that you're going to convince some people, possibly to your position, hey, even if it might be a unique or possibly absurd position, we'd love to hear about it. The number to call in is 720-619-2288. And I had to squint just a little bit to read those numbers. That's on me. I'm starting to my age is catching up with me. My eyes are catching up with my hairline is what's happening.
It's time for glasses. I had to succumb and get them. So you probably do too.
I think it's one of those inevitable things. But it's just one eye. I've got one eye that's misbehaving. So
Oh,
no, one of those things,
yeah.
right?
Yeah. You can get glasses with like one eye that is, prescription and the other eye not, I guess.
Yeah. Which, speaking of which, Sara is a big fan of science. What kind of calls would you like to catch tonight?
Oh, I mean, I'm happy to talk about evolution. I've been talking about that a lot on my TikTok lately. But certainly, I mean, my favorite topic is always the topic of hell. I think it's such an important one. I also like to talk about the heaven, like the illogical parts of heaven. Um, Objective morality can be fun, although it can do a little Philbro-y sometimes, which is
Yeah.
not my fave.
So heaven's a fun one because I think most people know some of the talking points about hell, and they've
hmm
probably heard us talk about them as well. But there's a couple like weird questions about heaven that never made sense. So like specifically, where? Like because like when you hear about all the evidences of the afterlife, the evidence is like the spirits are here on the earth. So if the spirits are here on the earth, then where is heaven here, or is heaven supposed to be somewhere far away? Because Christians keep telling me it's far away. I can't figure out where we're supposed to go.
Yeah, I mean, I can tell you what I think the Christian answer is.
Yeah.
I mean, I think the Christian answer is essentially treating it like another dimension, so that it's a place, but it's a place that doesn't follow the earthly laws of physics, right? And so it's a place where you don't have to make anything make sense because you can just sort of say, no, it's spiritual. Therefore, it doesn't have to follow any of these rules that all of our human places do.
That makes sense. They put it in the spiritual bucket, and like we can't understand it because we don't have spiritual eyes.
Yeah. Yep.
Right.
Exactly.
Yeah, that makes sense. I did hear that a couple times this week that the my problem with the Bible is that I've read it but without spiritual eyes, but
Mm.
I don't know what the spiritual eyes are supposed to be doing for us.
Well, it's interesting that both you and I were devout believers. And, I don't know how charismatic you ended up getting, but like, I was not only baptized in full immersion water, but also baptized in the Holy Spirit, and
Sure.
I had spiritual gifts given to me. And so you would think that I would have had the ability to see with spiritual eyes if anybody would. So I think it's at that point you have to just discredit our experiences, and say,
Right.
no, you didn't. You didn't really believe. You don't
You
really
weren't
count.
sincere.
Right.
You didn't mean
Right.
it.
Yeah.
Or unless you're Baptist, if you're Baptist, you could be like, well, you didn't believe the right thing. Like your heart was in the right place, but you got taught the wrong theology, and then God couldn't do like God can't work if you don't believe exactly the right thing.
That's the one that drives me crazy because instead of undermining me, you're actually
Mhm.
undermining your God.
Yeah.
Because if this God wants a relationship with us and he is all knowing, he's going to watch us follow, I guess, the wrong leader, watch us read the Bible for ourselves,
Yep.
sincerely pray, sincerely get baptized, but somehow we've gotten his message wrong and your God is incapable of correcting it and
Yeah.
like that. That's a weird one to me, like that argument. I could at least understand it more when they blame us.
And I think you're the one that's pointed this out. Like when you get to the point where you're like, well, you have to, do this and then do that and, put this over here and move that over there. Well, at that point, it just becomes like spell casting. It's this magic, right?
Hmm.
It's Harry Potter stuff.
It is. I mean, if it's not just about your intent and your desire, but it is a series of steps, it is a recipe, absolutely, then it's a spell.
Oh, recipe is a good word too. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I've heard lots of like Christian recipes. Like God can't answer your prayer unless you put this recipe into the oven. If you put that recipe in
Hmm.
the oven, his ears are blocked. He can't hear nothing. That's a real
Yeah.
thing.
And like, I think there's a charismatic side to that, and then a more kind of traditional straight-laced side to that. Like on the charismatic side, you will get like, no, you have to say the name of Jesus, you have to say in the name of Jesus, you have to say it out loud, you have to lay hands. Like
Mm,
it's very obvious that it's a recipe. But I think you hear the same thing in less charismatic denominations where you'll say, "Look, I asked God to reveal himself to me. Like I asked God to help me with my unbelief and he didn't." And the next thing you hear is the recipe. Right? The
right.
next thing you hear is, well, your heart was full of pride and you didn't confess enough sin
That's what it
and
was.
you were having a works-based faith and so you didn't ask the right way and you didn't and they're doing the same thing just less explicitly, but they're giving you the recipe that you did wrong.
Which is interesting because if you poke a little bit, you'll discover that they didn't do it right either, but it still worked for them. So you always, okay, so I didn't do all these steps perfectly. Did you do all these steps perfectly? Are you completely free of all of your pride? They're going to say no.
Right.
Obviously, they're not complete. So if God can work in you, if you didn't let go of all your pride, then surely he just doesn't care about me.
Hmm. Well, then it's like, no, God, you're putting God in a box and God works on
Hmm,
his time and not your time. And you're treating God
true.
like a genie, and that's on you.
Yeah, that's one genie I think we can put back in the bottle. I don't think we're gonna need that one. Just I'm done with him. Well, we've got one caller in the queue. The number to call in again, friends, is 720-619-2288. We typically prioritize the theists, but we will take atheists and agnostic calls, obviously. But just so you know, if you want to get in, the time to get in is always at the beginning of the show. We see it over and over again where we get towards the end of the show and the lines start stacking up and people then they call in and they can't actually call in to chat because they waited too long. So now is a great time to get in while the live stream's getting kicked off. We'd love to talk to you. Love to hear about your experience with your particular god or god-like concept, whether it's kind of wooey, whatever the thing is. If you've got a quantum formula for how the resonant solar index has changed your life, then more than happy to hear about it. But first, we're going to get Ben in all the way from Connecticut, and Ben is an atheist and is actually calling with an update. I hope it's a good update, but Ben is calling with an update with a situation concerning his brother-in-law. How you doing, Ben? You're on the line with Justin and Sarah.
Oh, very good. Thank you. Excuse me. How you guys doing? You sound good. Sarah's
Good.
Doing well, yeah, thanks.
devastatingly beautiful.
So we
Oh,
talked not
okay.
that long ago, actually, right? I mean, maybe just a couple weeks ago.
Yeah, that's correct. Yeah, you and Godless.
Hmm.
Well, the thing is, I do have a major update, and your advice was right on the money. I want to point that out right away. Um, I've been shooting down my brother-in-law's ideas, and he called me out of the blue yesterday
Hmm.
and invited me out for a cocktail, which has never happened. When we always got together, we were with family. I was
Hmm.
like, yeah, sure. Jack, no problem. And I met him down at the water hole. We had a couple of whiskeys. And he said to me out of the blue, which I had a feeling he called me there for something, but he says,
Sure.
hey, listen, your points lately have been pretty spot on, and I've been trying to refute them, and I'm having a hard time.
Hmm.
And I want to make a deal with you. And I said, great. What do you got in mind, big guy? And he says, I won't bring this up ever again if you don't. And in my mind, I was thinking, wait a minute. You've been bringing the subject up to me for 30 years. I've never brought it up to you, not one time.
Right.
But, and I thought, if I pushed him just a little further, he might actually deconvert.
Yeah.
But
He's on the
I
edge.
did a quick,
Like you've got him to a point where the conversations you're having are making him feel uncomfortable because he doesn't know what to do with them. So
that is correct.
it's either I start deconstructing or we just stop having these conversations.
Yeah, I actually chose the latter because I did a quick cost benefit analysis in my head. If I did push him a little bit and he did deconstruct and he blamed me or somehow or his family thought
Yep.
that it was my fault, it was going to cause a whole lot of problems. So I just let it ride and I said, all right, Jack, no problem. We'll never talk about it again. So we hung out a couple hours talking about family and sports, and of course the snowstorm that's going to hit us tomorrow.
Hmm.
And I just wanted to thank you for your help. It was very enlightening.
Well, I'm glad I could actually help somebody. So often we have these conversations and it just ends in a Christian hanging up on us and being mad. It's nice sometimes to talk to people and hear that progress is being made somewhere.
Yeah, I mean, as far as the Christians going nuts, I've heard them. I understand the problem. Oh, I wanted to make one quick point. This is off topic, but we kind of have similar backgrounds. I grew up in Ohio, small town, Niles, right by Warren, between there and Youngstown. But anyway, and when I got out of the military, I went to study at Kent State, and I became an engineer. What are the
Oh,
odds?
nice.
But I
Wait,
didn't never had the religious issues that Justin had. But I'm glad he
issues
got out of
issues
them.
is a good word for it.
Yes. Well, anyway,
What kind
that's
of
all I
engineering
wanted
did you
to.
do?
Mechanical.
Mm, yeah, I got that. That's a good time. Well, listen,
Yeah.
I'm
Oh,
thrilled that
it
we're
was
able
a
to
real
help.
hoot. Yeah.
Yeah.
And the only reason I ended up in Connecticut is because this was in the 70s. And when I got out of engineering school, manufacturing was dead,
Yeah.
in the
When did you
Cleveland
graduate?
area. Yeah. Yeah. So I couldn't get a job. Every time I went to an interview, there were 5 people there that had 20 years experience.
Hmm.
So I sent out resumes, and the one that looked the best was up here in Connecticut, and I've been here ever since. And it
Well,
was
I
easy
mean,
though. I wasn't married. I just packed up my car and left.
yeah, I don't blame you. I've done the same thing when I was young. Just you got a job, get up and go.
Mm. Yeah, you got to go where to pay the bills. And I
Well, I'll
certainly
be
didn't want to live with
curious.
my parents. I'm sorry.
No, no, you want to do that. I'll be curious to know how things develop with your brother-in-law if he after some time he starts thinking about the conversations you've had and maybe comes back eventually with what we might consider open door questions, where he's rather than trying to assault you with his worldview, he's actually trying to learn a little bit more about your worldview so that he can figure out where you're at rather than being like adversarial.
Do you really think that might happen? I never even thought of that.
I think
The only
so. I've had a
reason,
lot of people do that. Once they learned that I was out and I was public, I was no longer in the religion. A lot of people that I
right?
never thought would be deconstructing have come to me and said like I can't tell anyone. I'm terrified. Like you're the only one that can know. And it's one of those things. But like when people do start deconstructing, they always want to reach out to somebody else who already has or is already in it, because you need that. What's the word I'm looking for? You need a
Mentorship?
kind of, yeah. You need to feel like you're not alone, right?
Hmm.
Yeah, those are all good points. The only thing is, like I said, I've known this guy for 30 years, ever since I met his sister. But he's always been a man of his word. If he says something, he's pretty good about it. But there is a
Sure.
possibility, because he's on the back foot, he might come back later. And if he does, I'll support him in any way I can.
Yeah, because like if he comes back and he says, "Hey, we talked about this one thing once, and you said something that made sense to me I've never heard before," like that's a conversation that you guys can still have. You haven't agreed to never have a conversation. You agreed to not attack each other's worldviews anymore. But I think that's a different
Mm.
conversation than, "Hey, tell me a little bit about this. This is making me curious."
Well, that's a possibility, but the way he said it was exactly, "I'll never bring it up again," end quote.
No, never done. Okay, fair enough.
that's that's the only reason why I don't think he'll come back.
Yeah,
But
he might not.
but if he does, I'll handle that situation the same way.
Unless I don't know your brother-in-law. I've seen people with like this layer of protection, like cutting off the conversation is adding that layer of protection, but eventually
Right.
curiosity gets the best of them, right? And you see what I'm
Well,
saying? Like, if he's on the edge, like if he's trying to stop this conversation from happening because he's on the edge of deconstructing, once you get to that point, it's hard to turn it around. Like I don't know. Like Sarah, remember when you started deconstructing and you started considering like this idea of hell and how could somebody you love and cared for who is a kind individual go there? Once that thought is in your brain, it doesn't like you can't get rid of it. It's just there.
It's like seeing something you can't
hmm.
unsee.
Yeah.
Well, that's a possibility. He is a good guy. This is his only flaws, as far as I'm concerned. But he's intelligent. I mean, he's an engineer too. We run in packs,
It's true.
but
Yeah.
he's a chemical engineer, so we really have nothing in common to talk about when it comes to the fields.
Yeah.
But
But
yeah,
yeah.
I'll keep that in my back pocket. If he ever brings it up again, I'm not going to throw it back in his face and say, "Hey, you said
Right.
we weren't going to talk about this." No, I'll engage him, and
Right.
I already suggested he kind of start watching The Line. Maybe, but I'm not really too confident that'll happen. He's not a big YouTube guy.
Mm. Fair enough. I was when YouTube first came out, I was on it. Like I always loved the video format. So for me,
Right.
once the debate shows got on YouTube, it was over. I was watching them. But if it's not his thing, then he might never see it, you know?
I'm with you. I mean, I've been watching YouTube ever since it came out, but it was usually
Mhm.
on political, items and stuff. Not so much with religion. But I just stumbled on your channel first uh, when you were doing the debates. Oh,
Mhm.
I started watching them, and I was like, "Oh man, this guy really knows a lot." I don't have to be doing tons of research to, have some really good talking points, and I appreciate
Yeah,
that. Thank you.
I
But
appreciate that,
now I'm
bud.
hooked.
Well,
Now I'm on the
anyways,
line. I watch AXP. I
yeah.
watch Jimmy's
Watch
show. I
get them
watch
all in.
Nyla's show.
You follow
Apologia.
Leaving Faith yet? This way.
I'm sorry.
You, are you following Leaving Faith yet? You definitely should.
Oh no. Oh, you know what? I wrote it down too.
Oh,
For
great.
Sarah leaving Faith. How often do you broadcast, Sarah?
I am on live on YouTube on Tuesday and Thursday nights, and then on TikTok. I'm on TikTok a lot. Same handle. Saturday nights is when I do debates.
Oh, I see. What time on YouTube?
Like between 9 and 10 p.m. Eastern time.
I got you. Hmm. Yeah, I'll definitely check it out. Thank you very much.
Thanks.
Awesome. Hey,
Who
thanks,
who do
Ben.
you
Good to hear
guys
from you, buddy.
usually talk to? I'm sorry.
Well, Sarah and I, when we go live, have slightly different live streams. When she's not debating,
Moment, please.
she's
Thank you.
interacting with the viewers typically. Oh, Ben, we lose you?
Yeah, I'm sorry. My wife
Oh, we
asked
got
me
you
a
back.
question. And you have to drop everything when you're speaking with your wife.
I mean, they're
But
your other
anyway,
half.
thank you guys.
You gotta have priorities in life.
Oh, you got that right. All right. Thanks a lot for your information, guys. And
Good to hear from you,
I'll
Ben.
keep you in mind if something comes up.
All right. Cheers. Good to hear from you, Ben.
Cheers.
W. Ben, I'm so glad to hear that things are resolving, at least in a positive trajectory with his family members. Um, did you? I'm trying to remember. I was lucky enough not to have any family members get aggressive about my leaving. Did you run into anybody as you were leaving that wanted to argue with you?
I had a lot of friends, well, not a lot. I had several friends that wanted to talk. And those talks were just, well, stop worrying about that. Like you're majoring in the minors. Just stop thinking so hard. Or like
Don't
essentially,
use your brain. What if you don't think?
no. The person that I talked to the most though was my dad. And for those of you who have not heard my dad actually has come on my live a couple times. Um, he is he reminds me a lot of Mr. Rogers. Like that's his vibe.
He's a pure soul.
He is gentle and kind, and he does love a good intellectual discussion. And so
Mhm.
we have talked at length. But I'm very lucky. Like, for as devout as my parents are, they could have been aggressive about it, and they could have acted like I betrayed them. And they were sad. Like it was hard, but they weren't angry. And
Right.
that was, yeah, I feel really lucky for that.
Yeah. Did you have, this is one thing I particularly noticed, and I wasn't sure if it was just me because I ran around in circles where like leaving could mean like really bad things for you.
Mm.
Did you have people come out to you after they realized you were out that were like, "Oh my gosh, I can't believe somebody else is out. I just need to like talk about it."
The weird thing is no.
Hmm.
Um, So I deconstructed in grad school. And so I had a whole kind of brand new church there because I was grad school was far away from home. And so I found a new church. And those are the friends that I talked to. And, my closest, most devout Christian friends were all in college. And I never made a big online announcement or anything, and I didn't keep in touch with them. So there's a big chunk of people who probably don't even know. I mean, I don't know that they consume deconstruction content. So part of me is kind of waiting for one of my college friends to just accidentally happen upon my account and be like, wait, what?
I mean, it'll happen.
I imagine so. It has not happened yet, but I imagine it will eventually.
I had a buddy from seminary that sent me a message on TikTok, and he was like, I heard that TikTok is the place for people deconstructing. And he's like, I felt like I was starting to go down the route. And he's like, so I opened up TikTok and I just typed in deconstruction, and there you were. I was like, this guy's so he had no idea either until he opened up TikTok, right?
Oh my
So
God, that's amazing.
if you don't know, you don't know, right?
Hmm. Yeah, that's true.
But I feel like at least we're in a spot right now where people feel maybe empowered is not the right word, but they feel like they're allowed to deconstruct more than they could a decade or 2 decades ago.
Mm.
It used to be kind of like a dirty word. It seems like now it's becoming more of a trend. Like normal people are doing it.
Yeah, and it's interesting. I can't, since I'm not in the Christian community anymore, it's so hard to tell what it's like, and what it feels like to Christians. Because I imagine the reaction to it varies hugely from denomination to denomination, or like on the spectrum of fundamentalist to progressive. I imagine the reaction is really different.
Yeah.
And I get enough Christians in my comments who are really angry that I imagine there's still a lot of places where it's not safe to deconstruct. And, you are going to be told that you have the spirit of a demon inside you and you were part of the great
Mhm.
falling away and all these terrible things.
Yeah, it's that Jezebel spirit, obviously. Which, by the way, you were part of the charismatic movement for a while. I was for a little bit too. Did you experience this thing? I think both of us probably did, where like all the bad personality traits that somebody could acquire became a spirit. There's like the spirit of jealousy, the spirit of
Mm.
lethargy, the spirit of why is everything now a spirit? And how did they become that spirit? Did God say that you're the spirit that's going to make people sluggish? Like, what's happening there?
Yeah, it wasn't clear. Like, is this a specific demon? Um, the part that some of my friends really bought into that looking back was so dangerous, is this idea that different sins would manifest in your body as different illnesses. And
Right.
so, like, looking into scripture to see, okay, if you have this particular illness, is there any connection in scripture to a particular sin? And I think his name was Henry Nouwen. Maybe I have that wrong. There is a book by
Henry Nouwen. I don't
somebody.
know if I know that name.
And I don't think
Hmm.
I don't think he was very famous or anything. But there was a book that basically has like a whole catalog, of like all these different illnesses and all the sins that are associated with them. And then you're supposed to like, okay, well, if you're experiencing asthma, you might have the sin of jealousy. And so you need to examine your heart for jealousy. And it's the victim blaming is pretty incredible.
Yeah. Did oh, we got a caller. We'll
Ooh,
put
yeah,
this on hold for a minute. We got a
sounds good.
caller, Rainwood, that wants to talk about evolution. So it
Oh,
should be
okay.
exciting. Rainwood's calling all the way from New York, so we'll get Rainwood in. Right,
Yes, how
Wood,
you doing,
welcome to the
Justin?
line with Justin and Sarah. You want to, you know what? I couldn't be better. How are you?
I'm good, Justin. And I don't watch it that often any too much, but I tuned in and I saw Sarah wanted to talk a little bit about evolution.
Yeah, I'd be happy to.
Yeah.
So what I was thinking, not so much like evolution of animals, but more like when you look out at nature and you see grapes and vegetables and fruits, and I'm sure you ate something today and it probably involved bread or something in nature. Did evolution care that we have all these variety of vegetables and corn on the cob, and I can go on, nuts, grapes, whatever.
So most
So
of
what
our
is your take on
foods,
it?
yeah, most of our food supply is the way it is because of direct human intervention. And so it's essentially humans understanding genetics and reproduction and manipulating the existing food in a way that makes it better. So, like if you can find pictures on Google of the way corn used to look, and then it was
Right.
selectively bred to have bigger kernels and the kernels that would have more starch and more nutrition in them. So once we understand the process of evolution, we are able to do like selective breeding to make our food more nutritious.
Yeah, no, I get that part, Sarah, but you can modify it and get different, like tomatoes. You can have baby tomatoes, but you have to start with a tomato. You know what I mean? So I'm just wondering, did evolution care? It's like somebody cared that we would be able to make. I'm Italian, so it's like somebody cared that I would have my pasta and sauce tomorrow. You know what I
So
mean?
the direction is the other way. It's that
Okay.
humans evolved in an environment. And so the humans that could survive with what was already there, those humans were
Uh-huh.
successful. So it's that the humans adapted to the plants.
Okay. So I don't know if that like clearly answers the question, but
What is your
you're
question?
saying that, in other words, like some people like cantaloupe, some people like watermelon. Okay. And so what did evolution, I understand, microevolution and macroevolution. I've studied it a little bit, but I don't understand food evolution. If you know what I mean?
So again, think of it that it sounds like you're thinking of humans existing and food sort of changing to meet the needs of humans. Is that the thing you're kind of wrestling with?
Well, I'm just thinking like through the holidays that we all just went through a couple of months ago. There was corn on the cob, there was gravy, there just whatever you ate today. Just think about it. Where did it come from? If it wasn't an animal product, it came from somewhere.
Right.
Nuts
So
and
humans took existing plants, and if they weren't really
uh
ideal, we could manipulate them to make them much better. So, like
I get
ancient,
that.
well, that
You're
answers your
very clear,
question.
and I'm understanding what you're saying. That we could take peanuts and make peanut butter out of it. I get
No,
that.
that's not what I'm saying.
Okay.
No, I'm saying you take
Yeah, I
a
misunderstood.
plant
I
that,
apologize.
so a plant like 1,000 years ago, corn looked very different. It was nothing like the corn that you have today. There were very few kernels on it. There wasn't much nutrition in it. And it was not a good plant. It didn't serve us all that well. And so
Right.
humans, over thousands of years, through selective breeding of this corn plant, turned it into now what we have today when you look at an ear of corn.
I get that. It's kind of like, a couple hundred years ago, we had maybe, 25 different breeds of dogs. And in the last 100 years, we've bred Chihuahuas and Great Danes and everything. But we had to start off with the dog, right?
Well, so you started off with a wolf.
Well, yeah, a wolf, a fox, a coyote, they're all into breeding.
Right.
But
So are you
had to start off
asking
with
why there
something.
are plants in the first place?
Not just, if we had oak trees as far as the eye could see, and they were giving off oxygen and taking in carbon dioxide, and there were just turtles on the earth. I did a AI search the other day, and just that would be like winning the Powerball 1 billion times in a row if we just had turtles and oak trees. So how do you explain everything else?
So I wouldn't trust AI to do that math for you. Again, I think it's hard to understand the effect of time. And when you add time with the size of the planet and the opportunity for diversity, I mean, the world has not always looked the way it does now, right? There were times millions of years ago where there was barely any life. So it's not like when people try and calculate odds like that, they're calculating the odds that what are the odds that our planet is exactly exactly the way it is right now. But it wasn't always exactly the way it is right now. It was, and so it's not a fair calculation. Sorry,
I think it was better.
I'm like sneezing.
I think it was better, but that's just my opinion.
You think it was better a few million years ago?
Well, yeah, I think the earth was a much different place. Coming from a Christian standpoint, the earth was a much better place until it got ransacked, for lack of better words.
So you're referring to the Garden of Eden. Is that right? Okay.
Yeah, I don't think there was a literal talking snake. I'm not going to go there. Justin will tear me apart. But I think that the theme of the Bible, from Genesis to Revelations, is very, very consistent, and it has a theme. Now, we can argue about poeticness and allegorical and different. Some things probably were just made up, like the story of Job. I don't believe that literally happens, but it sends a message. Maybe the message is there. You know what I mean? So
do you think evolution is true or false or somewhere in between?
I think that what you just said before is very true, in that mankind has learned how to take what we've got and use it better. In other words, we have diversified our food chain by studying biology and understanding the mechanisms, but you can't start off with nothing. Like you
So it sounds like your issue really is, it sounds like you don't have an issue with evolution as much as you have an issue with like abiogenesis or even like the start of the universe.
I have an issue with macroevolution. It's not observable.
Well, it is. So macroevolution. Macroevolution is generally a term that Christians will use when they're trying to distinguish smaller adaptations from actual speciation. So is that what you mean, like one species changing into another species?
Well, like I raise pigeons. I have pigeons. I've always enjoyed pigeons. I know Matt Delahanty likes snakes. You know, we all have the different things that we enjoy. Some people raise dogs. And I can see Darwin's point with the finches because only the strong will survive. So I agree with microevolution and that there be changes. It's just that when you take that change and you say everything came from an amoeba and it created a whale and then it split off and for whatever reason it started to create pine trees and it made all kinds of fruits and vegetables that we take for granted.
Okay, I
And
think there's a few misunderstandings here then.
yeah, maybe you can help me.
Yeah, I'd be happy to. So, evolution is actually not just the strong survive. Evolution is that which reproduces survives. And the reason you get diversity is because there are lots of ways to survive. So you can get species that survive because they're able to find food up in the trees. You can also have a species that survives because they're able to burrow under the ground. And another species survives because they're able to grow wings. And so it's not that each of these different variations are the best. It's that the organism over time is finding a way to survive in its environment. And so, evolution is not this one line of this creature followed this straight line became humans. It is much more like a tree that's going to have lots and lots and lots of branches. And it is not just the best creatures that keep surviving. It's creatures that are able to find a way to survive. And I
Right.
think sometimes the animations that we have of evolution do us a disservice because when you're trying to kind of watch a video of what evolution looks like, it looks like you see this happening kind of to this one creature where it's a single-celled organism and then it's a multi-celled organism and then you have these lower structures. Evolution does not say that a whale climbed out of the water and became a tree. Like that is not
Right.
evolution.
I understand what you're saying. It's you have to have billions and trillions of years for changes to take place.
We do have
But
billions of
what I don't,
years.
I'm sorry.
We do have billions of years for changes to take place.
Right, but you don't see even in the fossil record. I don't see transitions. I don't see transitions between.
Have you have
Never
you
mind like
looked?
fruits and vegetables. That's a whole nother thing. But I don't see between a bird will always be a bird. You know what I mean? It might be a
No,
blackbird. It
actually, I
might be a
I I
pigeon.
don't. No. The fossil record does show slow transitions over time. So it is not like I don't know if you've ever heard of like Kirk Cameron, who famously said evolution is not true because there's no such thing as a crocoduck. It's not that a creature is one species and then it's half one, half another, and then it's another species. These
Right.
are all gradual changes over time. And we do have evidence of species changing gradually over time and slowly becoming lots of different species. We do have that evidence. Um, and the thing about evolution is that it's always happening. So like you and
Yeah.
we are transitional species right now.
I guess you will have to agree to disagree on that because as a Christian, I see humans as a separate category. I
Okay.
I just humans when the Bible says that, and now I'm going to get into where Justin is going to probably get involved, which he's very strong with the Bible, and I know he is. But the thing is that when the Bible says that God made man in our image, it doesn't surprise me that we make satellites and that we make all this stuff that people wouldn't believe 100 years ago we didn't have. So it doesn't surprise me if we're made in God's image, then we should be a thinking, creative person. The Bible says God is always working. So if he's always working and he front-loaded the wolves and the coyotes with genetics that can produce, a chihuahua that people adore or any kind of different pets. It's like,
So wait, I'm sorry. Are you saying that God put wolves on the earth for us?
I believe that the way that Matt enjoys snakes and I enjoy pigeons and another person enjoys horse racing, just think how boring life would be if all we had was one animal.
So no, I'm not disagreeing that we enjoy animals. I'm just asking that you think that those animals were put here for the purpose of our enjoyment.
Yes.
But only some of the animals, right? Like wasps were not put here for our enjoyment.
Well, thorns weren't either. In the book of Genesis, it says that thistles and thorns will now grow. You know what I mean? We introduce pain. So,
well, I mean, to be fair, God decided what the punishment would be. So I think it's unfair to blame Adam and Eve for that.
Well, I think it's more symbolic. It's like when you got up this morning, I know when I got up this morning, I personally said, God, give me the tools to get through my day and show me my direction. Jeremiah 10:23 says it doesn't belong to man who's walking even to direct his own footsteps. So I asked God to direct my footsteps. So in that regard, I didn't take from the tree of knowledge of good and bad. I didn't say, Mike, you could decide what's good for your stuff today. Ask the Creator to help you get through this day and live it the best you can.
Okay, so you're saying that we don't have the ability to discern what's right and wrong?
Well, I think humankind will tell you that we have tried all forms of government. We've tried all forms of
so yes or no? Do we as humans have we can't tell what is right from wrong?
Well, let me ask you a question, if I might.
Well, no, I'm not asking whether we do right and wrong. I'm just asking if we're able to determine what is the right thing to do and the wrong thing to do.
I don't think we don't live it out because.
Well, that wasn't what I'm asking. I'm just asking if we can know. Like, do you know that stealing is wrong? Do you know that? Like, are you able to? Okay, so humans can tell right from wrong, right?
Well, yeah, but we don't. For instance, I don't think it's right that I have food tonight and 1 billion people do not have food. Do you?
No, I don't think it's good. People are starving. So okay.
Do you think that
we can?
Do you think we have the ability, instead of subsidizing the farmers and burning their crops, to keep the prices at a certain level?
We know God has the ability.
The world.
God has the ability to make sure no one starves.
I'm sorry, Justin?
God has the ability to make sure nobody starves. There's 3 million children that will starve this year. God can make it so none of them starve. In fact, he rained down manna from heaven for a period of 40 years and sent quail, so much that people got sick, it said. They ate till they were sick. So, certainly he could find a way to make sure children aren't starving.
He could. But let me ask you a question. I don't know if you have children, Justin, or you're going to have children someday. But if you have a child,
and I would die before my child starved.
Okay, but what if your child, just hypothetically, what if your child said to you, Dad, I love you, I love Mom, You've given me everything I need. I'm 16 years old, and I'm leaving. I'm going on my
Yeah, I'd
own.
still take care of him. Yeah, I'd
What
still
would
make
you
sure he's
do?
okay. I'd chase after him and make sure he was okay, no matter what.
What if he kept running, and he said,
I don't
"I'm going to
care.
do it my way"?
Doesn't matter. There's nothing my son
Okay.
could do that I wouldn't love him and take care of him. My son could literally try to take my life, and I would save my last dying breath to make sure he was okay.
But if at one point he's 18 years old and he says, "I'm on my own. I'm doing what I want," there's only
No, he's
one
fucking
thing.
not. He doesn't get to make that choice. He doesn't get to
At
decide
18,
that
he does.
what I'm going to do. See, I
But
get to
at
decide what
18,
I'm going to
you're
do
chasing around the world.
as a good father. I get to decide that there's nothing my child will ever do that would make me not take care of them and love them and prevent them from putting harm on themselves, right? Or for creating harm for them. And this is actually a better analogy, right? Because it's not that we've told God we don't want you to be our father anymore. It's that God built a house that intentionally harms the children. So like if my child said, I don't want to be part of your existence, that's another thing. What the reality is, a better analogy is I build a house for my children to live in, and my house is booby trapped. I know it's going to kill 2% of my children every single year. That's a terrible father. I don't. It doesn't matter if my children want to be part of my lives or not. If I put them in a booby trapped house
So,
that's going to kill them and a lot of them, I'm a terrible father.
so Justin, let's use your analogy, okay, Justin? So let's make believe you give your son a beautiful home, and it's perfectly sound, but he decides to just cut the wires in the house
Oh
and
no, he
destroy
can't do
shit.
that. Nope, he can't do that. He doesn't have that power. And see, in the analogy, only God has the power to build the house. That's it. So my
But we have this
child in
house.
the analogy could have the ability to disobey, but he actually doesn't
You
have the
could
ability
destroy
to destroy
something
the
that someone
house.
gives you, though, right?
Only God has the ability to destroy the house in the biblical narrative. That's why in Genesis chapter 3, God is the one that curses the ground so that thorns and thistles would come up. This isn't something that Adam created. Adam disobeyed, sure. Eve
Right.
disobeyed, sure. But what happened to the house in the earth, that is, what happened to the house was only God's doing.
Well, he stepped back. He stepped back.
No, he cursed it.
It would. Yeah, he did curse it, but
So
it
he
would
didn't
be
step back.
like you just
The curse is an active
your
event.
analogy with the house. If your son just decided to live like a slob and just not respect it, it's just like we were talking about before.
Well,
Wait, are you
Do
trying
you
to
think
say
that
that
man can stop?
kids who are starving to death, it's their fault? Like the
yeah,
kids who are
basically.
No, I
starving,
think that we,
who
as a
in this
human race, we
analogy,
can solve
when you're
world hunger.
saying, wait, when you're saying that there's a kid who is a slob, where's the starving child in that?
Yeah, keep in mind
Well,
that's the analogy we're going for. That God built
that was
a
the
house
analogy
in
that
which
Justin brought up about the house.
it purposely kills children.
No, as far as world hunger, I think that everyone would agree with the sound of my voice right now that we can solve world hunger in about 2 weeks. If we really
Unfortunately,
wanted to as a human race.
Fortunately, that's not really the case. There are a lot of people that have been trying, and there's a lot of people with lots of money that have been trying. But there is one individual in your worldview, not my worldview, that could make it actually happen, could literally make it the case so that nobody would ever starve to death. And that character is God. And God specifically chose not to do that. He specifically chose to create an earth where he knew only parts of it would be habitable, and human beings would end up all over it. 97% of the water on the planet is not even drinkable. So there are some places where they walk miles and miles just to get a little bit of dirty well water. If God was putting together a habitation that was good, it would be like the garden where all the stuff you need was right there. Everything was growing for you. You had food available and abundant to you. Nobody could make it so that if you move too far north, golly gee, you can't get crops anymore, right? So
Mm.
this is something that God designed. Like nobody gets to take credit for the design of the earth other than God.
Well, I'm going back to your analogy with the house because he gave us a
Sure.
beautiful home, but we didn't respect it.
No,
No.
that's actually
We
not
didn't.
that's not true, actually. That's not true. Humans don't, in the analogy, if it's one to one, humans do not have the ability to hurt the home. Only God has the ability to design the home. If the home is the planet that we're living on, we don't have the ability to do anything. Like, so when God decided we were now going to have droughts and natural disasters and there is not going to rain for years, these are all things that
Mm.
God did. We didn't do that. Nobody, no human had the ability to click their fingers and say, now we have volcanoes.
But when it says that, when you're talking about natural disasters, Justin, when it says in Genesis that he cracked open the fountains of the deep, kind
Hmm.
of like an eggshell, and it became fault lines, and the water came up from the earth. Those fault lines are still
Hmm.
there. It's a remnant of the flood.
That's not
So,
remotely true, and it's not even close to the topic we're talking about. The topic we're talking about is whether or not it
but
makes sense to believe in a God that has designed an earth that intentionally murders its inhabitants. 100,000 people a year die from natural disasters. 3 million children alone die of starvation. Does it make sense that there's a good, loving God that designed this chaotic, nonsensical world, or that we evolved to survive in this and we have to overcome our environment? So what happens to human beings is because we live in an indifferent world without a God. If we put a God in here, the God can only ever be malevolent. It can't be good.
so I guess, you know, I just want to ask you one question, I guess, and I appreciate you guys. Um, the thing is, do you think as a human race, 8 billion people on the planet right now, that we have the ability to solve world hunger? Do you think as a human race that we have that ability?
I mean,
No.
as a human
People
race,
love world
there's
hunger.
so many things that we could do, but I don't know what we would have to do to solve world hunger, because world hunger, as we've talked about, it has a lot to do with the weather patterns, has a lot to do with migration patterns, arable land over here, fertile land over here, and then, one century it just switches. And then, golly gee, what do we do? The earthquake that rocked Haiti in 2010. Who could have predicted it? You're born on an island, you're stuck there. What are you going to do when the earthquakes happen? You're just stuck. Like we're never going to end people dying of hunger because we live on a planet that doesn't naturally produce enough food for all of its inhabitants in the locations where they actually need it.
Could it also be selfishness, though? Because I remember when We Are the World came out,
No.
because I'm a musician as well, and
So the thing
that,
Oh,
with
those,
blaming it on selfishness, saying that the only reason children are starving is because of humans' fallen nature and it's our fault that we aren't taking care of the kids. The problem with that argument is that it would be like, would you let your kids stay with a babysitter that you knew would harm your child? Like, you didn't technically do it, the babysitter did. But
right.
to say that it's not your fault is crazy, right? So this idea that like it's not God's fault that there are starving children because it's human selfishness that caused it. God's still at the helm. God could save those children no matter why they're hungry. Even if they are hungry solely because of human selfishness, which I don't think is the case, but even if they are hungry solely because of human selfishness, God could still rain down manna from heaven and
mhm.
save them. Like
Yeah.
nothing is stopping that.
And I
Right.
would point out too, there's an analogy that my friend allegedly Ian put together once that I think perfectly sums up like if what Sarah's saying is like it sounds so incredible God couldn't rain manna again. Well, like think about this. If you have a children in your house and you're like, okay, I'm going to put some of the children in charge. Obviously, the older ones are in charge. I'm going to put all the food really up high so the little ones can't get it. They have to depend on others to get their food. And if I know
Hmm.
in this system that some of my children will starve because some of my other children won't actually feed them, and I choose to enact this system anyways, when I could have just made the system so that there was food everywhere that everybody could access, if I make their survival depend on others when I don't have to, it's the same thing as exactly what Sarah just said. There's no different.
I understand what Sarah is saying, and she's, the average person does think that way, and you know, I used to think that way as well. God can come down and take an 85-year-old man and reverse his age and make him young. He could stop the aging disease. He can
He can
do
do
a
anything
lot
he
of
wants
things.
to.
He can do anything he wants to. If there's a God, he can do whatever he wants to. You're right, Justin. But
If you had a
just
button to
what I want,
press that would end world
what I
hunger right
wanted
now,
to
would you
end
press
on,
it?
what I wanted to just end on is, if I could, if I asked you this, but I'll ask it to myself, and this way you'll understand what I'm saying. If I had an 18-year-old child who said, "Dad, I appreciate everything, but I'm moving to another country, and I'm going to do everything on my own. I don't need you anymore. I don't want. I'm going out on my own." What is the only thing that's going to prove whether he's going to make it or not?
Well, no one
Time.
cares. Does he have a father?
He has me, but I can't follow him around the world.
Well, if
I
you're
have to
God, you
take care of my
can.
other children.
Is God
I
limited?
have to take care of my other children.
Is God limited? Does God
God
get
is not
busy?
limited, but
Oh, there
the
we go.
point
So,
is,
in the analogy, if you're God, the father in this scenario is the God, and we're the children, then God's not limited. So it's only one to one. If you're omniscient, all powerful, omnipresent, God is all those things. He could follow us to the quote unquote metaphorical ends of the earth if he needed to make sure we were okay, which is what I think a good father would do.
well, I guess we'll have to leave it at that. But the thing is that I think that when the child does come back, if he does come back and say, "You know what, I was wrong. I can't figure it out for myself. I need you to help me decide what's good and bad," to his earthly father, that
Well,
makes
they already
more
know good
sense.
and bad.
Because,
Genesis
I'm
3:22 says
sorry,
they know good. Genesis 3:22 says that we know good and bad already.
and we should be
Says
helping to
man,
stop
yeah, it
evil.
said man has become like one of us, knowing good and bad, right and wrong, evil and good, depending on which translation you're reading.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate you guys. Thank you for giving me some time, and um,
Yeah,
maybe
Yes, nice
one
to
day
meet
I'll
you.
talk to Sarah about hell,
I'm
because I
sure.
know she
I'm
mentioned that.
sure she'll love to.
Absolutely.
Sarah,
All right, have a great one.
Justin,
Good to hear from you again.
have a good day.
You too.
Cheers.
Bye bye.
Yeah, analogies. We do in this debate space. We work with a lot of analogies, and I'm always a little bit shocked by how disanalogous they are when they come from the caller. They're
Hmm.
never actually analogous to the biblical story. It's weird.
Something I see really frequently is we begin the analogy with a parent and child, and then, sort of halfway into the analogy, suddenly the child becomes an adult child. And then they're sort of on equal lengths with the parent. And then
Yeah,
you can blame the adult child for all these things, and the parent can't do anything about it. And you have to be like, no, no, no. When we're comparing God to humans, we're little teeny children. Like, this
right,
is not a parent to adult child comparison. That's a very totally inaccurate metaphor. You have to keep it like this. But it
right.
usually makes a Christian point better if it's actually parent and adult child.
Yeah, yeah, 100%. Well, we've got one theist and one atheist in queue. So we're going to grab our theist, Michael, calling in from Virginia, is asking if one of the factors preventing deconstruction is fear of community backlash. And I think it's actually a really good question. Michael, welcome to the line. You're on with Justin and Sarah. How are you?
I'm good, guys. Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Hi.
Yeah, welcome in.
So I called in a few days ago actually, and I was labeled a cafeteria Christian, which I thought was pretty funny. And I did some reflection, and you know, I don't really know if I could call myself a Christian anymore because the version of God I believe in is definitely not one that aligns with the Christian belief system, any of the
Right.
teachings, whatnot. So it made me wonder. I still don't want to abandon my faith completely because there's definitely some kind of I don't know if I would really call it fear in my case, but there's definitely some kind of block, right? Where it's like this has been a foundation of my uh, person essentially for as
Yeah.
long as I've been around. But it did get me thinking, whenever I have conversations with people who are incredibly religious about stuff like, I think the main one for me has always been LGBTQ plus rights, where it's like I'm advocating for these things and I'm showing them these studies that support it all. They're always like, no, 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 la, 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 la. And it's just like, no matter how much evidence I present, it never seems to make any difference. So I wanted to ask, because I heard you talking about your deconstruction experience and about how, you were worried you were going to get pushback. But do you think one of the reasons people are so averse to things they perceive to be against their religion is because they're afraid of what their deity will think of them?
I think so. I mean, or they're depending on how kind of the environment you're in, I think there's a lot of kind of pressure that if you accept these other ideas, it is evidence of a moral failing, that you are backsliding, that you have given into Satan, that you are being of the world, and you are, not disciplined, not holy enough, and and so I think there's sort of that fear of like I don't want to become bad. I don't want to be a bad Christian, or I don't want to kind of go down a slippery slope and end up like, if I accept this one idea about the queer community, does that mean I'm going to go down this slippery slope and suddenly, not believe anything anymore? I think there's a lot of that kind of fear too.
Yeah, it's always struck me as kind of weird though, because it's like, wouldn't you want your man to have as best a life as they could be, as they could have? But then, kind of to bring it back to your deconstruction, to maybe hit this on a more personal point, was it scary for you when you were going through it? Was it something that you were like really worried about? Because kind of, as I said earlier, it was a cornerstone if we were up until that point.
Oh yeah.
Was for me. Yeah. I I would say I don't know. I think everyone's a little bit different. For me, like the initial stages weren't that scary. Like the first time like I cracked the door open to could the Bible be wrong? That was scary. That very first moment when I was like 21 and I saw the first time two distinct issues. One, that the manuscripts are a mess. We don't really know what the Bible originally said. And number two, that accounts for why we have so many contradictions in the Bible, is because the manuscripts just don't agree. And so it opened my eyes at a young age, like, oh man, like it's the Bible could be wrong. And that was destabilizing. And then I kind of reoriented myself to a less fundamentalistic viewpoint. And then I was fine after that. But it was never terrifying. It was scary, but it was like not terrifying. The part that became terrifying for me is not when I left Christianity. When I left Christianity, I still believed in a God. I think going from believing in a generic God into atheism was scarier. Going into atheism for me was scarier than just leaving my religion, because it might be true that your religion is false, but something else is true. But once you get to atheism, now you're stuck. You're like, well, this is it. This is all we have. And you have to learn a whole new reality. Like you have to reorient everything you thought you knew. And like the plans that you had in life, what you thought you were going to do, a lot of times they all change too.
Yeah, and I guess that's kind of where I am right now. Because, like, don't get me wrong, I'm totally down with the science. I'm totally down with. Uh,
Mhm.
I think Forrest actually said it best. He has his universal moral principles, like at the top of the morality pyramid, and I'm
Mhm.
totally down on board with those. I think they're absolutely excellent. But for me, I'm kind of like in this place right now where it's like it is like you said, it's scary. Where it's like um, I don't believe in the Bible. I don't ascribe to those beliefs. But at the same time, is it still wrong of me to want to believe in some kind of higher power? I'm kind of
No, I don't think
at
it's
that
wrong.
crossroads.
I think it might be, I think it's built in. And I don't know if everybody has it, but I think it's such a universal feature. It accounts for why humans are so prone to wanting to believe in gods. And I think the best theory I've heard for it is that because of our biological wiring as children, we desire to have parents that are like protectors, they're there for us, right? And so, but what happens is as we become adults, like even though we feel like we don't need our biological parents anymore, we still have that internal instinct from evolution to we still want something. We need a protector, a covering, something that cares about us. And so that's why we still look to, even as we grow older, like a higher parent, even because we just have that need. And I think for a lot of people, it even grows stronger as they age and their real biological parents start to pass on. I think for a lot of people that triggers another wave of like, oh, even deeper desire for parenting now that my actual parents are gone. And to me that makes sense with what we see in society, and it seems to agree with evolution. What do you think, Sarah?
Yeah, I mean, I think, and certainly religion ticks a lot of boxes for us, psychologically. And yeah, like with Justin said, I'm never going to tell someone that, no, you're totally wrong for believing in a God, because I'm an agnostic atheist, meaning that I don't think we can ever demonstrate the non-existence of a God. And so I am not ever going to say I'm 100% sure there's no possibility. I think it's intellectually honest to leave that space open. Maybe there's evidence that I just haven't seen yet. So yeah, I think it's completely reasonable to believe in a God.
Okay, and I guess now that we've kind of gotten deeper and deeper into it, another one of like the reasons that I'm kind of afraid to step away from belief in higher power is kind of like the fear of what comes next, like after death,
Hmm.
where every religion has, most of them anyway, has some kind of afterlife. And to me, that was always a comforting idea where,
Yeah.
like, no matter how you spend your time in this world, you have a chance of seeing the people you care about again.
Yeah.
And I, so I will admit I am not the most educated on atheism. So do you guys kind of have anything like that? Because that would definitely make it a whole lot easier. But
Yeah, I can deeply empathize with that. My journey was a lot sort of more condensed than Justin's. I basically went from devout Christian to atheist in the span of a year. Like the whole thing just collapsed really fast. And the hardest thing for me to adjust to was the idea of no heaven. Um, the idea that this is it. That was really hard for me, and honestly still is hard for me sometimes. So I don't want to project like, nope, I'm totally cool with it. It's great. I'm so happy about it. Sometimes it still is hard. And I think for me, I just don't see any evidence that our consciousness could continue on. Like I don't know how that could possibly happen, which is why I think this is probably it. However, I also know that, like, I follow a couple of hospice nurses on TikTok that are really comforting, I think. They talk a lot about the process of death, and while it's not universally peaceful, it is a peaceful process for a lot of people. And certainly an interesting phenomena is that when people are at the moment of death, death is on its way, they often see relatives or loved ones that have already passed. And so the experience people seem to have is loved ones coming to get you. And I think we probably can explain that physiologically. Um, Although I do think it's interesting that it's only people who have passed and you're not like hallucinating someone who's still alive. But I do take comfort in that the actual kind of act of ending is probably peaceful and comforting. And so that helps.
I would say too, like it's an interesting field of study, and I think one leap that believers might be prone to take is that if in fact there's some sort of consciousness that existing after death, that it would mean that there's a God. I actually don't believe it to be the case. If we discovered, like, if the movie Flatliners, W. Kevin Bacon, became true, and it turned out that there was some sort of consciousness living on after we're dead, to me that would just point towards like more like Buddhism being true, where there seems to be some sort of spiritual component to our biological makeup, but still no reason to believe in a God at all.
Yeah, everything you've said makes perfect sense. I mean, like, as I said, I'm very much a scientific oriented person, down with the logic. I guess for me, though, it really is just a lot of fear. It's just a lot of fear that, this is it. So if I don't do a good job the first time, I've kind of blown it.
Yeah, that's such a good point. Because when we're in the faith, we have this idea like this life is a throwaway, it's a blip. We're just passing through. The real thing is coming next, right? But if this is all there is, like, we really owe it to ourselves and others to make the most of it. And even from a selfish standpoint, even if you have purely selfish instincts, you can still get to a point where you have motivations to help others, even if they stem from purely selfish instincts. Like, for example, this is the only life I get to live. I want to enjoy it, which means I should encourage others to behave similarly. Because if I'm discouraging people from enjoying their life, or I'm preventing them from enjoying their life, well, then I might live in a society where they're preventing me from enjoying my life, and I don't want that. So, like, even from just a purely like animalistic instinct level, at the atheist level, you can still develop a really good framework for avoiding the nihilism nonsense. Nihilism is not worth your time. Don't go down that road. There's always hope to be alive and to enjoy one more day.
And if I can add to
Yeah.
that, my experience right after I stopped believing in God for the next few years, I definitely was like, what do I do? Like, what is life about? Am I just going to die? How do I? And I struggled for a while. And I remember thinking a lot about my deathbed and like, what am I going to regret on my deathbed? And how can I live in a way that, I'm not sad about it or upset with myself for doing the wrong thing? And I was in my mid 20s at that time. And I'm 40 now. And so while hopefully I have a lot of life ahead of me, I have lived quite a bit of life since then. And I've had some really, really difficult things happen. And I can tell you now, just with 15 years more experience, I don't think we're going to be on our deathbeds thinking, I should have done this and I should have done that. And I wish I had really reached my true potential. I think we're going to think about our loved ones, and I think you often can look back at your life with a lot more compassion and kindness and know that you did the best that you could. And so I worry a lot less about like deathbed regrets. I think building a life with love, any kind of love in any sort of way, I think is going to be really meaningful.
Yeah,
I
I
like the
agree.
sound of that. I'll try and follow in your footsteps. I do have one more question though,
Hmm.
if you guys have the time. I know it's been a little
Sure.
bit.
That's okay.
So, the what really kind of set me on this whole journey was, well, one, I discovered you guys, and I've been a fan of Forrest for a while. Then I was like, oh, he has a whole talk show he's on. So I listened to quite a lot of your videos. But when I called in that night, the topic was, is religion good for society? I was firmly no on that one. But what I really want to ask you, as people who have kind of come out of it, I unfortunately don't think religion is going to go anywhere. So for people like me who are kind of stuck in between, but still want to do good things, is there a way for us to make a positive difference within the foundational religions? I think the biggest one in America right now is probably Christianity, maybe more specifically Roman Catholicism. I'm not entirely sure. But is there a way we can positively affect these communities to where they kind of start shifting towards, more open belief systems, less, less really awful?
I think so. So it's difficult. So, for example, I know pastors right now, friends of mine that I know they really don't believe anymore, but they feel like they can utilize the religion to motivate people to do good things. And so there certainly is that route. But I think the the difficulty there is when you have a religion like Christianity or Islam, where it's so just it's has done so much damage by perpetuating it, even though you might be utilizing it for good, somebody else might be utilizing it for bad. So I think it's better maybe to find something else. And I've always loved that like Matt has championed like the humanist groups and secular morality. We're getting better and better humanist groups now that are getting larger, and they're easier to find one near you that you can get yourself affiliated with to do good things. We're getting more and more non-religious charities popping up that you can participate in. So like there certainly are some avenues you can do in the non-religious route, but to be fair to my friends that are still in ministry for the single purpose of I feel like I could use it for good, I get it. I really do get it. If you're stuck there and you're like, it's better me to be here as a pastor to move these people towards positive direction than maybe somebody else to be here that could turn them all into Christo fascists. I get why you would make that decision.
And I think with,
Yeah,
oh, go ahead.
no, I was just going to say I do see where you're coming from, and I totally get it. I guess I've always been kind of someone who focuses in a bit too much. This is really sad, but the
Not too
idea that
much.
there isn't just as large of a group as of non-religious people who are trying to do good things didn't even occur to me until you said it out loud.
Yeah, I mean, definitely just look in like near wherever you live. Look for secular humanist groups. I know it sounds funny, but even look for a temple, a satanic temple. They're typically not Satan worshipers. They're usually just atheists, and the whole satanic temple thing is just for fun. They typically do charitable work. It's kind of like nowadays. You guys might not realize this. Hell's Angels nowadays, it really just engages in mostly charity. They're not out there like doing biker gang stuff anymore. And Satanic Temple is a little bit like that.
Yeah, that's actually one of my favorite jokes. Is saying like, as a Christian, it's easier for me to get along with Satanists than it is other denominations of the same religion. But no, thank you very much. I'll
Yeah.
definitely spend a lot more time now just looking into these causes because I don't know if there are where I am right now. I definitely live in like a rural conservative Christian area, but hopefully I won't be here for much longer. So I'll definitely try and make a difference.
Listen, we got your back.
I appreciate it, guys. Thank you for having me.
You're welcome.
Absolutely.
And that grape
It's great to
guy
hear from
was
you.
kind of weird, but I appreciate you guys. Thank you very much.
Anytime.
Cheers. Well, interesting. We've got another deconstructee. So we started the call with one, and we got another one. I feel like when you have a space where people are open to dialogue about it, I think people are I think they make much more progress when they feel like they're being helped and not judged.
Yeah, I mean that's what I was gonna it didn't fit into the conversation, but what I was gonna add when he was asking about like, well, what if we try to, change religion from the inside? And people know when you're treating them like a project, and people know if you are there to change them or convert them um which is why, a lot of our debates go the way that they do. But yeah, I think trying to if you are in a church and your entire goal is to change everyone at that church, I don't think it's gonna go well.
No, and to be fair, like you don't have as much control over your congregation as you might think you do as a pastor.
Oh
No matter
yeah.
how many people bring you baked goods and tell you your sermon was amazing, which, to be fair, is a really good benefit. I don't know if any pastors out here that are former pastors. One of my favorite benefits was people bringing you baked goods. I mean, to say thank you for showing up. It's one of those things. Anyways, let's grab John from Ohio. John from Ohio is an atheist and is questioning his own naturalist worldview. Should he trust his own perception? Well, John, you're on the line with Justin and Sarah. How are you?
Hi. Honestly, I am struggling through the big sads right now. I do have a good care team, but
Awesome.
that's why I would also love to kind of talk out some of my epistemological beliefs um, with you, if that's okay.
Sure.
So I guess one of the main things, so I deconstructed about 15 years in my mid 20s, currently, 40. And one thing that has happened since I'm from rural Northwest Ohio is that I have often faced, accusations of being
Michigan fans.
delusional. I'm sorry?
I said Michigan fans.
Yeah, some of them were. My family were listen, you know how it is in rural Ohio. All that you have is bad weather and sadness. So
Yeah.
having a team that wins a lot of games is the only thing that gives you joy along with sermons.
Yeah. Our main export in
But
Ohio is crippling depression.
oh man, you've got that right. And honestly, actually that brings me to kind of, I want to say, a comorbid factor, even though religion isn't as much as we would like to joke. So it's not a mental disorder, but depression, um, from not only deconstructing but religious trauma, and I was abused by both, my family and my community, and
Sorry to
not
hear that.
allowed to seek treatment for depression and anxiety until I was, an adult, which leads me to kind of still have this bias against myself that since the questioning of my faith and the depression diagnoses occurred around the same time, well, makes you think, well, what if I caused my own depression by questioning my faith?
I get that.
And
Well,
I guess where I would benefit from, scientifically literate conversation with yourselves, is just that, since we have a lived experience, we have to extrapolate all of our beliefs based on it. If
mhm.
my or all of our actions, if my other actions do entail me having friends and uh most of my abilities to maintain my hygiene and perform my work duties, then am I judging myself too hard for not believing in the creator God when I seem to be, still understanding the rest of existence correctly?
Right. Okay. So, first of all, I am
Mhm.
not a therapist. I would say one thing I've learned from my biblical counseling classes when I was in the seminary, though, is a lot of times people that are depressed will often look inward for the to blame the depression because it's a mechanism for control. They feel like if they're the reason why they're depressed, they can be the reason why they're undepressed. And like you can just flip a
Mm.
switch and fix it, but it's not quite that simple. What you believe is a very complex set of brain mechanisms, right? Now, it might be true that something you believe could lead you to have negative emotions. That certainly could be the case, but I don't think you can choose what you believe. But I do think you're doing the right thing by saying, hey, I do believe in a thing. Maybe every once in a while we circle back and ask ourselves, is this still something that is rational? Did I come about it the right way? The same thing I did when I was a Christian. Said, hey, I still believe this thing. Let's think through some possible scenarios and see if I'm still sane here. Like, am I still believing the thing that is correct, right? So I would say, first of all, you didn't choose this. You know it kind of chose you. You just became unconvinced at some point, right? Now we're back and we're gonna do a sanity check with some of your arguments, and we would love to hear some of the points where maybe you're feeling less confident in a particular viewpoint that you need to talk through.
Yeah, and quickly I will add, so I do have a therapist who I see weekly, psychiatrist I see monthly, so this is not medical advice that I'm requesting from you at all.
Of course, I could never
Just
offer any.
clarify that. However, sometimes we do consider increases in level of care because, so more specifically, as you just asked for clarification, um, at the moment, I am recovering from a surgery that occurred as an assault, um, and the loss of my financial safety net from before that happened as a refugee from a natural disaster, including needing to liquidate my um, retirement account.
Wow,
So
it's a lot happening.
again, and sorry, this is not a woe is me story, just data. Um, but this did lead to, my still very devout family saying, well, a flood was God's way of telling you to come back to the faith. And, my response was more emotional at the time, like, well, 4,200 people lost their homes. Like, your boy's not that
Right.
special. But
Yeah.
that said, so coming up to now, just with a litany of things that can very well be explained. Sometimes you experience weather phenomena, sometimes you are subject to assault. And so my additive stress, it's valid that I'm feeling in a lower place because of it. But at the same point in time, sometimes I do wonder if I bring it upon myself, just kind of in a way that one would.
I mean, I think one thing to keep in mind is that you, like Justin said, you did not choose to stop believing. And it is incredibly damaging to people to have to live a life in which you feel like you're hiding a huge part of yourself, you know? And so if you continue not believing, if you were to go back and say, look, I miss the support, I miss the community, maybe my life would be easier if I just kind of went back and acted like I believed. I don't, I know that living like you have to hide a big part of you also causes a lot of distress. So the fact that you're experiencing distress right now is not your fault.
I thank you for saying that, and then kind of on a similar note to something you discussed with the previous caller, in terms of how to interact with others who are still going through a deconversion process. After the natural disaster, some time had passed, and I did have a point where I went in for a residential inpatient, care for about a week to make sure that I was safe. And at this point, intensive outpatient is something my therapist and I talk about recently. We've discussed it largely because my eating patterns have gotten very far removed from being healthy. And so structure would be nice. But basically, I guess where I'm getting at with this, and Justin, Ohio, the other clients in both instances that I have sought higher levels of care are very theistic. And
Sure.
So I guess sometimes I wonder how others who have deconverted maybe tiptoe around the conversation, try not to belittle others because we're all trying to heal. And I never want to slow someone's healing by marginalizing their faith. That's a conversation for an appropriate time with consent.
I feel like sometimes there are just tiny little thoughts that help. I remember when I first learned to golf, it was a horrible situation when I was like 20 something. And if you didn't grow up golfing, it's a nightmare to learn as an adult. I had a friend who was a coach once. He says, you got to do like 8 different things perfectly. If you screw even one of them up partly, it's going to be awful. But I learned really early that sometimes you just need to find a feeling or a thought, and sometimes just clinging to that can help you through some of the nightmare. But like, so when it comes to dealing with my religious family and my friends, there's so many of them. I'm inundated and surrounded by them because of the type of life that I lived, right? So the thought that I always have in the back of my head was that used to be me, and that's what keeps me grounded. Every time someone it comes up again, and I want to, it's the topic of conversation, and I want to say, well, God's a monster. What about slavery? I think to myself that not that long ago, that was me. I was that person. You can just let it go. You don't have to address it. If you're having a nice family dinner, just have the nice family dinner. You don't have to address the problem. Sometimes there's an elephant in the room, and you just let the elephant be.
Yeah, and I guess to follow up with that, I have had experiences where, especially more recently, just we live in a very tense world in terms of social situations. I have had moments where by not acknowledging someone's exclamation of faith, they assumed that to be, kind of just a statement against it. Have either of you ever encountered that?
I mean, there are certainly social and professional situations in which it's like everyone says, let's bow our head and pray, and so I will just bow my head. I'm not actually praying, but I'm also kind of participating in the social expectations. So I mean, I think there are some ways where you can sort of thread the needle there where you're not openly doing either one. Like, are
Yeah.
those the kind of situations that you're talking about?
Slightly, yes. That is something that I did learn, a few years ago, that being respectful of others, practicing of their faith isn't the same thing as kind of like abandoning my own lack of faith, or rather. However, sometimes in closer situations, or especially in group therapy, folks will express that, they know something will be okay in their heart because of their faith in a higher power. And
Right.
others in the room will be nodding affirmatively, and my delay is noticeable.
Yeah. It's isolating too. It feels isolating because now people are noticing that you're not part of the cohort. You're not part of the not in agreement group, Um,
Yeah.
for me, I have one of those. What's the word I'm looking for? I have one of those probably on the spectrum personalities where I tend not to notice people noticing me. So it's not something I catch often, but I can imagine catching it in real time. And I could definitely see how that would be hard to deal with. I don't know. What do you think, Sarah?
As someone who's much more sensitive than Justin is. Justin's like, what? There were social cues? I missed them. I don't know what's going on.
I was eating.
Yeah, from the other perspective, it's probably not as bad as it feels. Like you are noticing how much you stick out and you are probably worrying about what everyone else is thinking. And in that sense, as long as you're not being unkind to people, then, what they're thinking is not any of your business. And honestly, they're probably worried about their own stuff anyway. So it's probably not, I know it feels so bad, but it might not be as kind of, torch and pitchfork as it feels.
I hate how correct you are in that moment. And
Sarah's really good at this stuff.
So I do also have a neurodivergent diagnosis, and I mostly wanted to say this because my therapist understands. Like, I have a sense of humor to kind of not personalize labels towards myself, so I always say neurospicy. And so I advocate for if you don't want to have a negative label towards yourself, and just say neurospicy. And then you feel like you're just, very culinary with your thoughts.
Yeah. Everyone loves a good jalapeno.
So, is there anywhere you think this conversation could go to kind of benefit maybe the thoughts that I may not have at the top of my mind that, my implicit bias is hiding?
I mean, I would definitely recommend, like, if you're looking for more places for community and connection for people who might have similar experiences, we're happy to, I think, talk about some support groups that exist. I know there are people who, I don't know, is it okay to like plug different places for him to go? I don't know what.
If I could plug the Sober Faction through the Satanic Temple, which, that's on their website. It's on Zoom. Not
Recovering
really
from
plug,
religion.
but rather, do you think I should check out the Satanic Temple's website and see if there are any opportunities that I might, or that many people might benefit from?
I reckon I definitely recommend it because like having community helps, especially when it comes to negative emotions. I can't tell you, because as someone from Ohio, we have long, dark winters sometimes. Sometimes just getting out of the house helps so much with dealing with negative emotions, and we get isolated, right? But we need to get out and see people. Not everyone needs it, but I feel like it's a common human instinct to sometimes not get out. And when we don't do that, sometimes we lack social interaction, and social interaction helps quite a bit.
100%. Yeah. Post-op, when I was on a knee scooter, there's a library about a quarter mile from me that even though I could use the computer in my own place, going down there was huge.
Yeah, like
But that said,
if you ask,
Mhm.
oh, go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say, I'm always open for those kinds of suggestions and or just the reinforcement that, again, I can trust my own intuition that I am capable.
You are. Absolutely. And you've already done so much work. When I was younger, I tried my hand at finance and investing. I had a buddy who was going to school, and he was trying to drag me along with him and teach me some stuff. And one of the things he told me early on is like, do the math. Like when you invest in like a stock or something, do all the math up front and then make your investment and then don't look at it. The minute you look at it, you start panicking. You're like, oh my God, what if this happens? What if that happens? He goes, but if you already thought through it, like you already did the work, like just be confident that you did the work and let it be, right? You've already done the work to get where you're at. You've already thought through the arguments. You've already thought through the positions. Be confident in the work that you've already done. Don't worry that like, oh my goodness, what if I could be wrong? You already did the hard part, the logical part, the argumentation and questioning part. That's the really difficult part, but that's the really sometimes quite the very meaningful part. Don't let your worry ruin the hard work that you've already put in.
I appreciate that. And before I thank you so much for your time. Before I let you go, Sarah, may I tell you about a video I watched recently that I thought of when you were speaking with the last caller?
Oh, sure.
It was on PBS Aeon's channel. I don't know if you ever watched that, but it's part of the PBS Digital Studios, and they were discussing accidental artificially selected plants, like through biomimicry. And it was fantastic because they were discussing just how wheat was cultivated in the Mesopotamian area, and then because barley and rye are more hardy, like those seeds, as the seeds traveled north, produced better plants, and then so now we have the separate plants, and I just thought that was really cool.
Yeah, I think it is interesting the way both on purpose and accidentally evolution often brings along kind of extra adaptations that we didn't count on. So how things end up adapting over time is always a bit of a surprise. So that's cool.
Yeah. I just from a couple conversations ago when a gentleman said, "Let's agree to disagree," and I thought to myself, "Wow, you must have needed a deep breath."
Yeah. Well, John, thanks so much for calling in. We're rooting for you. We're on your team. You know what I mean? And if you need to call in and ask questions, you'll know where to find us.
Thank you so very much. Have a great night.
You too.
Cheers, buddy. You have a great one.
Bye.
W. John, he's working hard.
Yeah, it's a lot. It's a lot of emotional work to do.
I do totally get like when you've distanced yourself from a decision that you've made, because he said he deconstructed a long time ago in his 20s, right?
Yep.
When you've distanced yourself from a decision you made a long time ago, it becomes easier to second guess yourself because it was so long ago. You're like, wait, what did I really think? What really happened, right? And then but I know when he deconstructed in his 20s, he already did the hard part. He already did all the work. You don't have to second guess it. But it's hard not to second guess yourself when time passes, I think.
Yeah, I agree.
Well, friends, our lines are closed for the rest of the session. I think we're going to read super chats. I don't know how many we have, and then we'll be closing out after our super chats. Thanks so much for being here. It was great to actually get some calls. I know sometimes they're not the juicy ones. Actually, get some calls to see people like really benefiting from the deconstruction process. Like, what a cool thing to know that there are people out there that are like moving forward and progressing through deconstruction.
Yeah,
Anyways,
definitely.
$8 from Genji. Good to see you, friend. Says Soundwave superior, constructions inferior. Who are you calling inferior? No one would want to follow an uncharismatic ball like you. I know that's a quote from something, and I don't have enough pop culture reference to know what it is.
To be fair, I don't either. We're both
Thank you,
old
Genji,
and
though.
sheltered.
We were both buried in our perspective fields very deeply for a long time.
Weirdly, I actually don't know if this super chat is from this batch. I'm realizing now it's not. I have to.
Oh,
I think
batch
that might be
refresh.
from an old show. I had the wrong VMix social link up. Here, let's try that again. There we go.
Hey, $9.99 from Ezekiel 999. Perfect match. Thank you, friend.
Fantastic.
And we'll just alternate.
Okay. Can you make it bigger? Like come down on the big one? I can't see it.
Oh,
That's
if
in
you can't
Zoom actually. You gotta pin
Oh,
the Zoom window that has the output for you.
Yeah, there's a blue box that when you hover over it, you can click it and pin the right window so that it's always open.
Oh, look at that.
Yeah.
I like haven't seen myself this whole time because yeah.
Oh,
Anyway,
no.
you guys don't let me get on technology. I'm the worst.
You're doing great.
Oh man. Okay. $9.99 from Percival Yum Yums. My favorite duo, sorry, Ms. Bible Guy, perhaps. I'm guessing.
I know what he's asking, but no.
Okay.
Thank you, though. And 5 from Joshua Everett. Good to see you again, Fred. It says, love for the turtles, lightning for the oak trees.
It was a very interesting world that guy was positing where there were only turtles and oak trees.
It was getting so deep. I was like, Sarah's got this. I'm not going to touch this. Like, we're not. Just...
It's fine. I got it. $5 from Abstruse Glitch. Trust me, it's not always the strongest that survive. Have you seen koalas?
Oh my gosh.
Or
Falling out of tree.
pandas? Oh my gosh. If you are ever having a bad day, just look up pandas falling down and it's fantastic.
It's wild. They take a good tumble.
They just
They just fall out of the tree and keep going.
They do.
Actiful. Thank you for the $5 super chat. It says Rainwood doesn't seem to be interested in learning things he's asked about and been told repeatedly. Very unlike a musical composer to be so incurious.
Oh, he was
You
a
know what?
composer? Did I know that?
He's been on the line quite a bit. I think at one point he got temporarily or permanently banned from talking to Matt.
Oh.
He thought
Okay,
maybe he'd
fair
try his luck with a new host.
Nice. $10 from DeskFrame7331. Love to see the dynamic duo at work on the line. Thanks.
And 5 from Mo Spider-Man. Good to see you tonight. Says a qualifying question should be: did you finish high school or have a GED? It may sound elitist, but we have an ARK in Kentucky, for fuck's sakes. It's interesting because, like, I actually know a guy. I roomed with a guy even that didn't graduate high school and ended up doing really well for himself. I don't know if an education is or a diploma is a requirement for learning something and getting really good at it. He ended up being a jeweler for Tiffany's.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, I didn't even finish high school. He he's like, I'm going to teach myself how to do all of this stuff, and he did it. He did what it took. So I wouldn't want to disparage anybody based on their education, because I know so many people that have like just soared out in the world without, or they didn't have the opportunity to actually graduate. So many people didn't have. I had the luxury of, I had a stable enough home life I could graduate. Not everybody gets that. So I totally get you, Mo, and I love you, but that's not one thing I'm gonna put on to the caller. I don't know if we should be doing that one.
$10 from Very Good Wizard. Great seeing Justin and Sarah on the line, and shout out to the mods and producer too. Thanks for doing what you all do. Absolutely.
And 5 from Inane Glory. Good to see you again, beautiful kitty cat. If the fall of man is true, shouldn't theists be able to point to the transition between Genesis 1 through 30, a vegetarian tiger, and the fallen carnivore tiger? Well, that, to be sure, I don't know if you've dove into it. Well, you know what I mean. Like, there are some apologetics for how things changed, and even at the Creation Museum,
which we have been to.
We've seen it at the Creation Museum. There's an apologetic for how things changed after the fall, and why animals are now vegetarian when they weren't previous, vice versa, right? So there's an apologetic for that. But the question of, shouldn't theists be able to point to the transition? I mean, if they're doing their homework, they should at least be able to like dialogue about it. I don't know, Sarah. They're not doing their homework, are they?
But no fossils. I mean, unfortunately, there are no fossils or no bones from vegetarian tigers, which is a bummer.
If only.
$10 from Namastalatin. Sarah, what's your definition of a god? Because if matter cannot be created or destroyed, wouldn't that fully disprove the definition of a monotheistic god? Well, I mean, I think people who believe in a god don't think their god is subject to the laws of physics. So, if we say that matter cannot be created or destroyed in our existing universe, I think someone who believes in a monotheistic God, just their God wouldn't apply. So that's what I would think.
Yeah, that checks out. And 5 from Raven 200 says, "No, I will push back on Justin regarding nihilism. I'm a happy nihilist. I love my meaningless life." Still love you, Justin. It's okay. It's funny. Maybe I put too much on the word nihilism. Typically nihilism is associated with not being happy. But to be fair, I think you could be a happy nihilist. I think the definition allows that. So that's on me for putting too much on it.
And it almost sounds like absurdism, which sounds fun.
Mm-hmm.
Justin, you should bring up your position on nihilism to Forrest, because Forrest calls his belief smileism.
Yeah.
He is very into happy, positive nihilism, so that would be interesting.
Well, yeah, like, to be fair, like if you push me far enough, I've said this quite a few times on live streams. In the end, the long run, everything really is going to be meaningless. Like, our solar system's not going to exist forever. The memory of all of us will eventually fade from existence. But like, it matters to me right now as a living human being, right? So if it matters to me, I know it matters to other people. So while in the long run, nihilism is just kind of a fact, there's no reason why you shouldn't want to enjoy your time here. Like, even if you know the movie's going to end, you're going to eat some popcorn and enjoy the movie, aren't you? I agree with Forrest, though, on this one.
$5 from Namastalatin. I realize I miscategorized your belief, Sarah. I'm sorry. I smoked too much herb. No problem. I don't mind. I can argue both sides. It's fine.
Oh, man. Thank you so much for being here, friends. And Sarah, thank you so much for joining me.
Oh, yeah. Thanks so much for having me. It's always such a good time.
It's a blast. And, this is actually, we've had so many live streams where we've had to argue with people. This might have been kind of a change for us, getting some might be called positive engagement.
You might call it that. Yeah. No one yelled at anybody. It was crazy.
I didn't have to be a bad cop. I nearly became a bad cop with what's his face? I already forgot.
Rainwood.
Yeah, Rainwood.
Yeah. I tried to rein it in. Catch it. Anyone?
I did.
I don't have a soundboard, but couldn't have come.
Oh my God.
Anyways, friends, I don't know if we have outro music playing yet, but remember, we've got shows going on all week. So make sure you're tuning in tomorrow for the Sunday shows and After Dark. Make sure you're tuning in Monday for Skeptalk. Make sure you're tuning in Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. And we might, it's not scheduled yet, we might even have a Cus I Wanna happening on Friday. And for sure, we have a Cus I Wanna happening on Saturday this coming week.